Hey you, if you're into what I'm up to on this channel, please hit the link in the description or in the comments and support my Patreon. You'll get access to my comic strips and for all the secret videos that I post only there. I love you. Thank you very much. So cool, man.
Wow.
You look like you're in a heavy metal band right now.
Do I?
Yeah.
That's cool. Where are you? You look so. It's a nice, dignified room.
Oh, sure. I'm in here all day working.
Yeah, this room is my studio too. We carved it out of the kitchen. I'm in New York, so the real estate is, fierce. I need to redecorate, but yeah, it's not a bad space. This is my drawing table, actually, which is the one thing I had built that worked out perfectly. It's like a permanent tilted surface.
Is it a light table?
I have a light box I put on it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you use a light table a lot, right?
Now and here and there. Yeah. I mean, I use it more. I used to work on the page and just pencil it and then, ink over that. But I do use the light box more to take it through the stages.
To take it to the stages?
Of
I see.
pencil. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I'm confused because I'm mixed up because I just actually heard about you that you were like a performance guy, like improv and stuff like that, right?
No, not really.
Didn't you go to?
There was a kind of overlap for a few years. It hasn't happened at any time lately, but where I was reading my comics on stage as part of comedy shows.
Oh, okay.
That kind of thing. I did a few other things. I did the monologue at the old UCB theater. They would have guests on to build improv around their monologues, and you had to do spontaneous monologues. I did that one night. But mostly it was reading my comics in these comedy shows, which was a lot of fun. It was great. And actually, Kate Beaton and I put on one where we had a monthly comic and comedy show, interchanged acts, which was really a lot of fun.
You're still doing comics, like live reading comics events, aren't you? I mean, I guess not right now, but you were doing those for a long time.
It kind of died down. I mean, part of it is just the ruthless paving over of New York. There's fewer and fewer performance spaces.
Oh, really?
I'd still done some within recent memory, yeah, but it had definitely gone down. I mean, part of the whole problem with me is just where am I supposed to make money? Is like these were a lot of fun, but they didn't make me any money either. So. And when I did the Twain book, also I thought it would be really funny to dress up as Twain. I realized that a little way into it, so I started doing that, and I did a couple of shows like that. That was fun, yeah. But I'm too self-conscious to be a really good performer to do like improv or stand-up. I mean, maybe I should push myself farther, but
Yeah, but how did you get to know all these? I mean, how does an artist or a cartoonist get to know like Conan O'Brien or something, or get like Robert Smigel to write the introduction to your book? Like, how does that happen?
Well, New York used to be much more kind of freewheeling and democratic. So I met, I think I met them all through like Screw, like not Robert Smigel, but definitely Andy Richter. I met him at a Screw party, and then through him I met Conan O'Brien, but it's not a personal thing that that he was reading my book. I was surprised by that. Robert Smigel, though, it was because Tony Millionaire gave me a list of addresses to send Snake and Bacon to, my first book, and one of the people I sent it to was Dino Stamatopoulos, who went on to work on Community and things like that. He's an amazing writer. And he really liked it. And he was doing the show with Smigel called TV Funhouse for Comedy Central. So they got me to do a couple of cartoons for their show, which was very short-lived. We were apparently going to do more, but it only lasted one season.
Yeah, and that was a spin-off of Saturday Night Live.
It was meant to be. Yeah, he's very ambitious, Robert. And I think he went a lot beyond what they thought the initial brief was going to be. He was also supposed to be rerunning one Saturday Night Live cartoon during each show, but he didn't even do that. He was creating too much new material, and it's a brilliant, bizarre show. On the show, one of the bits I think about sometimes, which I thought was absolutely brilliant, was a Robert idea. It was about how it was the immigrant, the baby, and the guy on mushrooms. And the idea was that they all react similarly to everything. Kind of like, oh.
Yeah, that's right. That was great.
Yeah.
Did you have a studio separate from your home for a while in New York?
I did, in Red Hook. I mean, I don't know. I think I got it right when things were taking a downturn. So, in fact, it just ended up a place where I hung around depressed,
Yeah. And I mean,
because I made my own, I don't know if you know this, I made my own pilot for Adult Swim. And then they, you can still find it online. It's of Snake and Bacon. It was a couple of Daily Show writers, Scott Jacobson and Rich Blomquist, and they wanted to make a show out of Snake and Bacon, and we made this pilot and then waited. Oh God, there's someone who wrote me an email about it. I have to write them back, but because they were like, this was made in 2007. Why wasn't it shown until 2009? That's a mistake, right? And I have to write back and say, no, they tortured us for, a year and a half. I mean, by the time they finally aired it, we finished it in January 2000. It would be January 2008. And then they didn't air it till May 2009, and it had already passed on the option. So it was just, just torture. I just heard they all got fired. Or Mike Lazo, who was in charge of Adult Swim, he quit. And then following that, the people on the streams and Matt Harrigan, who I dealt with, all were let go. And on one hand, that it's sad. They were nice guys and everything, but they put me through so much. That was like the first of several deals I had with Adult Swim, all of which just were, pointless nightmares.
Yeah, I hear that story over and over again from cartoonists about their dealings with, Adult Swim, Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon or something, and it's just it
showbiz in general, yeah.
Yeah, they just take your time from you, and they kind of get your hopes up, and then nothing happens. Things just fall apart,
Yeah.
So that's kind of cartooning in general, is like taking a long time and getting your hopes built up.
Yeah.
Putting it out and just having to deal with the humiliation or the complete lack of response at the end,
Yeah, the experience actually with my last book was so intense. I still am struggling to recover from it, to be honest.
In a good way?
Just hit. What?
In a good way, right?
What do you mean?
I mean, intensely in a good way, because it felt like that book was everywhere.
Oh no, intensely bad. It was an intensely bad experience. Oh yes, that book failed. That book failed badly.
I can't. That's interesting to hear you say it, because, like, from my perspective, I felt like that book was doing really well, and it seemed like, all right, we're in like a new era of Kupperman here. He's going in. He's like a actual, like a famous author now or something.
Well, that's nice to hear. I'd like to live in that world. Yeah, no, as always, when you do a book, you hope for offers or interest or stuff like that, and there was just nothing. There was nothing. I mean, yeah, I don't feel like that book was a complete failure, because it obviously connected with people, and I keep hearing that it connected in the way I wanted to.
Yeah.
But as far as whatever you consider the comics world or the comics community, I feel like it was a total flop.
Yeah, I wonder why. I mean, yeah, I just hear. I mean, I read it. I thought it was awesome. It was. I mean, I really loved it a lot, and I know. And that's actually one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you. Like, I was like, God damn, that book's amazing. But like everybody else was saying, it's great. So I don't know, man. I feel like, what are your
Well,
what are
thank
your
you. Nice to hear.
expectations from comics? Do you have any anymore?
My main expectation, honestly, I'm not expecting to become rich or even fucking have a survivable income, anything. I don't expect anything. The one thing I really always have wanted is to be given the opportunity to do more. Because when you're really doing stuff and you're into it and it is going well, at least from your perspective, you're like, I want to do more of this. I could have done another. I mean, I have it in me to do another book that kind of follows on from that one. And I've done some of it on my Patreon. I've been doing everything for Patreon
Mm-hmm.
because I don't want to deal with any of these institutions anymore. I
Yeah.
actually had a deal with, I had a commission from Adult Swim to do animation for their streaming, and I've kind of sort of stalled and sat on it for 2 years, to be honest, because I reached a point where I just couldn't anymore. I don't know. It's like something inside me. It's not like I made a decision, but there's a whole follow-up I want to do on all the answers. It's just like, God, going through the pain of that again.
Yeah.
Because it was the publisher. The publisher was just a nightmare.
Okay.
My editor left 3 weeks after the book came out. They didn't seem to want to do any promotion. I managed to get them to organize one bookstore thing, and that was the best I could get.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy who took over, I heard later, he has 72 books at once. He's shepherding, which explains part of it,
but not. I mean, I assume financially it was a better thing to go with that publisher than.
I got for today not a terrible advance,
Mm-hmm.
which made it even more puzzling when it came out and they were just like, eh.
Where do you think your reputation is at these days?
It's like my reputation is some parallel universe where people say, oh, you're really loved over here, It's too bad you're not here.
You have a weird sense of yourself. That's what I'm getting, because I think you're one of the legendary cartoonists. It's like it's the same as I had Ivan Bernetti on the channel like last month or whatever.
Yeah.
He's like, you guys don't actually see, you don't know what your own reputation is and what people think of you. But you're a very well-respected artist. Your biography, the clients you've had, stuff, it's like incredible. It's very enviable. So I feel like, you can do whatever you want, really.
Yeah, I know. I do tend to get a little glass half full. That said, I'm working on some exciting stuff. I'm doing a project with Tim Robbins,
Cool.
doing a graphic novel of his project Bobo, which was legally not a sequel to Bob Roberts, but is a political satire about a deranged president.
Cool.
So that's exciting.
Is it just illustrations, or are you doing a whole graphic novel based on?
Whole graphic novel, yeah.
Wow.
It's been intense because he got in touch with me in it was May or June. It was late May, I think, and he wanted to have this out before the election, and I was into it, and then it went down to just trying to have 1 out of 4 issues out before the election.
Yeah.
And that by the end clearly was impossible too. But I really tried. I tried to do it. And we had a publisher for a little bit, but then they backed out, I think because the schedule was so insane.
Yeah, that's a crazy schedule. I don't know how you would have pulled that off.
Yeah, so now I'm going to try to retool the elements I have a little bit and then either present it to a publisher or present it to Kickstarter, either one.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. Like, you weren't a self-published cartoonist. Like, you weren't a part of that whole scene in the 80s. You went straight to working with newspapers and publishers, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I haven't printed my own stuff very much. Yeah, I decided to go through the New York publishing world, which I think was in some ways a major mistake, and probably has given me some of this, gloomy attitude.
Right. Yeah.
Because it is brutal. I've been meaning to start writing about it for my Patreon, and it's one of those things that, I want to write down, but it's also got so much pain in it. It's it's a little difficult. But yeah, I started doing comics in, I guess, '89.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then I started working for New York Press, and then it was the New Yorker very soon after that. Then I was doing stuff for the New Yorker.
You started on the top of the mountain and you've been climbing down the rest
Yeah,
of
basically, a slow downwards process.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, self-publishing is really good because it gives you like a sense of empowerment of your own destiny as an artist, and like
Yeah,
it gives you a whole skill set and things that you'll use later on in your career. Especially now, the way the market's going, it's like so uncertain. I feel like knowing how to just put your own work out there and just reap all the rewards for that is really, really valuable, more than it ever has been. So
yeah.
Kickstarter, Indiegogo, whatever you can learn how to use, like everybody's going to have to use that soon.
Well, yeah, I have been planning a Kickstarter for a like humor treasury of my work. Yeah, so probably be doing that start of next year.
Is it a reprint of the
Is it a what?
Is it a reprint of the Thrizzle work?
It would be a collection of the best from Snake and Bacon, Thrizzle, before and after, because I have been, last couple of years, I was working a lot for AdultSwim.com and Vice while I was doing the book, and for a little while after. And then since then, I've been doing work just putting on my Patreon, you know.
Is that your main source of income, is Patreon?
Yeah, yeah. It's gotten so crazy. I mean, just having done it now for 30 years, watching the way things have fallen apart. It's like a horror movie, a zombie movie where just people are dead and they don't know it yet, and just things that make the whole experience pleasurable or doable just disappear.
Mm.
You know, so it's like increasing this thing. I was doing a comic for Harper's, and the editor was great, but I never heard a word beyond that of anyone's reaction. That's one of the reasons I get the feeling I'm in a void. I didn't hear any reaction to it from anyone else beyond some vague, they like it. But I was let go after like 6 strips. I mean, part of that is the economic collapse we're going through. But, you know, it's just this weird thing where you feel like you're issuing your work out into the void almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And the Snake and Bacon cartoon cabaret book that you did, I remember you telling me that like it went out of print and then they started doing like a print on demand thing with it or something.
It never legally went out of print. It's been in print continuously for 20 years and will never sell 4,000 copies. It's like there's this magic trick where I get these sales statements, and it's always like it sold 50 a year, and it slowly climbs up. Like it's at 3,000, I don't know, 3,600, I don't know. You know, it's like, yeah, they've kept it in print for 20 years, and it apparently sells some copies every year. And I believe I've seen other copies since then that look not that bad.
Mm-hmm.
There were some that I saw that looked like just Xerox fabricated things, you know. But
is that how they did it? They just did like a digital print of this book or something, and like if somebody wants it, they just print it up for them.
Or print on demand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really weird. Yeah. Boy, yeah, that's one I think about a lot because I was hired to do that book by Avon, who wrote me after seeing me in Heavy Metal, and they wrote me a letter. This is how things would happen. You'd get a letter saying, "We're very interested in your work." And so, yeah, they commissioned me to do a book, and they were pretty excited about me. And they had me design the catalog and the mascot for their new book line called Spike, that this was going to be part of. And then they were acquired by News Corp and HarperCollins, who were just like, yeah, fuck this, you know, to all of it. And it was because I finished the book in '99. It was printed in 2000, so it really was like the line between the 20th century attitude of this is cool, we want people to see this, and this has no proven commercial, you know, audience, so fuck it.
Was that the era when every cartoonist was getting like a big book deal?
I don't know about that, but you know, working in illustration, it was amazing because I finished that book and then I was like, I gotta make my illustration career pay off more than it has, because I had been doing mostly black and white, which, you know, is a limiting factor. So I really pushed my color work, and I was suddenly getting lots of more work at places like Fortune and PC Magazine. This is when they were paying $2,000 a page.
Wow.
Yes, and I was doing some of these bi-weekly. I did like the cover of Fortune twice, and huge stories. And then there was, not as many people remember this as with the 2008 one, but there was a crash in October 2000, which I remember very well, partly because I illustrated it. The two Fortune covers were actually about this internet bubble and then about it bursting.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, all the illustration rates dropped, all the work dried up, and in some ways it never recovered from that.
Yeah. But do you remember this exciting time? I guess it would have been like in the 90s when you were working. You get into comics and illustration, you just feel like this is an exciting world that's like just going to keep growing, and like look,
right.
all these offers are coming in, the phone is ringing. It's like
Well, I was lured in by the big format Raw, especially.
Oh yeah.
Which is just an amazing thing to see and be like, wow, this is a whole new world. This is everything's going to be different now. Illustration isn't going to suck anymore, and
that optimism and everything. When I got into comics, it was already like, there won't even be books in 2 more years. People were telling me that stuff, like everybody's going to have their books on the e-reader, and nobody's going to buy books anymore and all this stuff. So I felt this like crazy desperation to at least get to a point where I had my own book, like an actual object. It's like I got to get there before they stop doing this altogether. And I was with Eric Reynolds when we were in New York. Actually, I saw you on that trip, and we stopped at Comixology so that Fantagraphics could make that deal with them to start putting their books on e-readers. But now I wish I hadn't allowed that for my books. Like I think I'm going to not allow that in the future anymore.
Yeah, my impression was, I've noticed Fantagraphics just giving away my entire works on Comixology for free. And outside of that, it seems like just a very logical gateway to piracy.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's what it's been for me. I mean, it's you go on there and you just see as soon as it's one person buys it on Comixology, it's like on some pirate site, and everybody can just download their version or their PDF. Yeah. It's bullshit. I don't want to do it. And I understand that like it's similar, like if a library buys your book and a bunch of people get to read it. But it just seems a little bit more massive than that.
Yeah. That said, I torrented my first book. Myself.
You torrented it?
Yeah, I was just like, come on. I want people to read it more than I'm not ever going to see any, royalties from this thing, and it's a completely bizarre system.
That the Snake and Bacon was your first book?
Maybe.
What is the Hodags and Hodaddies, that zine that you were in? Like that was your first published work, right?
Yeah, that was the stuff that really started me doing comics as a like career, I guess. Was that it was bizarre looking. I've got to dig up some copies and photograph them and put them online. But it does look like a comic made by deranged people. It's like Xerox is folded inside a laminated sleeve. Yeah, that was a great experience. That was back in the period when Williamsburg was just a wasteland with nobody but artists in it. That was an amazing time. It didn't last long, but
what other cartoonists were in it?
Oh boy, well, it was edited by these guys, Kevin Powell and Jim Barnes. Kevin Powell has actually done several graphic novels. Jim Barnes died a couple of years later, or a few years later, from heroin. Which was very present around that time too. Besides that, a lot of people who didn't continue with comics and a few who did. Russell Christian, Angela Wyman, God. And then gradually as it evolved through it, I met some people who did do comics at least a while longer. Scott Cunningham and Danny Hellman and Steve Serio. Scott Cunningham quit some years later, but some interesting people. But that was my first experience through comics, and then through that, eventually, I think it was in the Comics Power show at Exit Art in '93. That was a big deal, and then you know, New York was a much more open town, so it's much easier to like meet everyone.
Yeah.
Uh,
But that's not the kind of zine that they would have collected into a book, right?
no, absolutely not. No.
Okay.
Hold on a second. I was just actually scanning this to put it on my Patreon as the beginning of my story in art. But this is, can you see this? This is the very first thing I did in college with a friend. And it's, yeah, it's kind of, it's pretty nuts. It was just, it's just this whole thing that we made. And we didn't reproduce it, and we didn't show it to that many people. We just kind of made it, you know?
Wow. Is it a good
And
story?
what's that?
Is it a good story? Is it readable?
It's just a kind of surrealistic ramble with using Tintin as a base. It's complete freedom. But, you know, looking at it, I can see that the things that inspired me the most about comics were there. And part of it is that I think comics are an art form where you can get very close to the subconscious more than a lot of other art forms. You can be drawn into a kind of subconscious state or a kind of appreciation of things.
How old were you when you did that? You were in high school or something? Or
21.
Oh, 21. You're going to put that in a book you're working on?
No, I'm just going to show it online, you know.
Okay.
But it was my first experience. I mean, I was very straight-laced. I'd lived in Connecticut for most of my life.
Mm-hmm.
It really was a freeing experience to come to New York. I didn't come till I was 19, but, you know, I'd never smoked pot before. I'd never, you know, done very much fun stuff, you know. So it was like beginning life almost to come to New York City.
Yeah. And then I remember this thing you told me about how when you were in art school, you, like all the students had to sleep at the YMCA, and there was
they didn't have dorms yet, so they housed students at the YMCA on 34th Street, and that was a hell of an introduction to New York. It was amazing. I mean, I really, you don't know how amazing circumstances are until they're gone. But you know, Times Square was still a sleazy pit of depravity, and yeah, the YMCA was a wild environment, and my first job was as an electrician doing trade shows in the middle of the night, like stringing cords and plugs together, you know, at the piers on the West Side or in, you know, the New Yorker Hotel or whatever.
Oh, wow.
Really, really wild. Yeah.
You saying there were like glory holes in the YMCA bathroom?
The upper floors, yeah, they had those plastic hanging sheets between the showers, and yeah, there were holes carved in them. It was.
That is a different era.
It really was. It really was. It was complete chaos. I mean, New York was so chaotic back then. It's just amazing. But it was also a much cheaper, easier city in some ways.
Do you ever see yourself moving out of New York City?
Well, that's the question. I mean, that's part of the problem is I moved to New York partly, you know, for the art and the publishing industry, and the art is gone, and the publishing industry, it's not great.
Yeah.
You know, so none of it's really worth being here
Mm-hmm.
anymore. That said, I don't know if there's anywhere else in America I want to live, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. We do talk about moving to Ireland at some point.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, my wife has some property there, and, you know, if we had some money, we could she wants to build an eco cottage, you know, that we can live in.
I mean, would you miss the chaos of New York City?
There's a lot I love about New York City. I don't know. I'm hoping that maybe, you know, maybe this crisis will take it back somewhat. You know, maybe it'll stop being such a shopping mall for the rich,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and for tourists. I mean, one of the nice things about this crisis actually has been no tourists. There are no tourists right now.
Yeah.
Which is great. But, you know, when I came, it was such a wonderland of freaks and artists, and now they've either all died or moved away, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Rough. You know, I started a reading series for you know, graphic fiction at the local bookstore, Greenlight, partly just so I could see other artists once in a while.
Yeah.
You know, and then we did 2, and then this happened.
Yeah.
So
I know. I was just talking about to my wife last night. It's like, remember when this first started and it seemed like, we're going to have a month of everybody just staying inside. It'll be fine. You know, get cozy. and together we'll get through this. And now it's like, almost a year, and we're like, fuck this shit.
Well, yeah, and it's for what? So the government could just try to get as many of us killed as possible? It's absolutely insane. It's like we stayed inside so they could do something, but they've done nothing
Yeah.
except make things worse.
Yeah, everybody's like super frustrated.
Remember when you couldn't get hand sanitizer?
Oh yeah,
Oh God!
that's right.
Right now, my son is at he after years of being at public school, he's at this weird little private school, which my mother is paying for. And it's 6 kids in a class. So he actually is going to school every day with other kids, which
That's
is
good.
absolutely amazing because
Yeah.
the other kids he knows aren't, if they're still in town. A lot of people, he was at a public school with a lot of West Indian kids. A lot of them have just returned home. A lot of people have just left the country. But the ones he knows aren't at school most of the time. So he's very lucky he's at school, but means I have to walk nearly 5 miles through Brooklyn at night to pick him up and take him home. It's a little intense.
Yeah, that's terrible. What?
Mm.
You grew up in England, right?
No, I spent 2 years in England, which
okay.
had a huge influence because it's England after Connecticut.
Yeah.
Yeah, we spent 2 years in Cambridge, England, which was absolutely amazing. Yeah.
How old were you at the time?
I was 7, and when we came back, I was 9.
Did you read
So,
the Beano when you were in England?
absolutely, yes. Corky, Core, Beezer, Tintin and Asterix, of course. Yeah, and I came back and I was just mystified by American culture. I was like, who is this Fonzie? That dominates everything.
Did you read superhero comics when you were growing up?
I did not. I didn't actually read them until I was in college. And I had a roommate who read some superhero comics. And through him, actually, I read some of the very best that was happening right then. There was Dark Knight and Alan Moore's Swamp Thing. And also Nexus, which I think is absolutely incredible comic.
Yeah. Was that Steve Rude?
Steve Rude, yeah, Mike Baron and Steve Rude. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good stuff. But you weren't doing comics in college, right?
Sorry, what?
Were you in college for art? Or I mean like for comics?
Yeah, I really didn't know what I was doing, really didn't know what I was doing. I mean, in some ways I still don't, but I went to school for fine art and then I ended up a sculpture major and just made a lot of, large wooden piles of crap that are all gone now. But it really took me a year or two even after college to kind of figure out a direction. I was confused.
Mm-hmm.
And it really wasn't until Williamsburg and Hodags and Hodaddies that, I was like, I can do this. I mean, that's what a lot of an artistic career actually is. It's opportunity. I think a lot about that famous poster artist, Abram Games, who he became a great poster artist because he was assigned that job in the Army,
Oh, really?
Huh. Yeah.
How did you get hooked up with Fantagraphics? Was that in the early 2000s or late 90s?
Yeah, I think I did some stuff for Kim. Yeah, I did stuff for 00 for Kim Thompson, who is missed. And then it was 2005, I think, when I was emailing with Eric Reynolds about something, and he said, we'd love to have you do a comic. So, yeah.
Yeah, by that point, you'd already been doing illustrations. You'd already had a book out. Like, you'd already been around for a long time.
Yeah.
But just basically as an illustrator, right? I mean, you weren't really doing comics?
No, I was doing comics the whole time. I was. The comics from the 90s, they're basically in Snake and Bacon.
Oh, and those would have been in Nickelodeon magazine and things like that?
Yeah, actually, a lot of the Nickelodeon stuff hasn't been reprinted. There was Nickelodeon. I was doing comics for, I had a weekly strip in the Seattle Stranger. After Snake and Bacon came out, I was doing comics for The Believer and, places like that. I was doing comics the whole time. But, illustration as well. I mean, I saw the comics as my main thing. The illustration was just, supposed to be a bread earner, which of course it didn't turn out to be.
Yeah. But you would, like, before you were with Fantagraphics, would you just doing those kind of comics all over the place? If you would, I mean, would you go to comic shows or not? You wouldn't go to like small press shows.
I went to SPX, like I went in 2000. I think I went in 2000. Yeah. I went a couple of times, and yeah. Actually, I was nominated for an Ignatz for Snake and Bacon, but the ceremony was canceled because of a little thing called 9/11.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. I remember
Good times.
hearing about that year. It's like the only time they canceled it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was your like? How do you feel you were treated by other artists at the time? Like when you go into the comics community, like, do you think that were you given respect?
Yeah, in general, I think artists are good.
Mm-hmm.
Artists care about other artists and are warm to them. It's very rare. Obviously there's some cartoonists I've met who are complete introverts and seem incapable of even the slightest conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But, no, most artists, are pretty generous. Like, Gary Panter, for example, is an incredibly sweet-natured and generous person.
Yeah.
Some of these people have shown me a lot of kindness. Yeah.
Do you see Gary Panter around New York?
Oh God, no, it's been a few years. I mean, also having a kid really keeps you in your own circuit, So no, the last time I saw him was, I don't know, several years ago. Yeah.
So that's interesting. When you have a kid, I wanted to ask you about that. Like, if you're existing as an artist, as an illustrator, and a cartoonist, and then all of a sudden you're a father, what kind of pressure does that put on you? Like, are you all of a sudden freaking out like, holy shit, I really have to make this work now. This isn't just about me.
Yeah, and it didn't work out, so we had to deal with that, I mean, it has to be at some point, this isn't working out great, but it's all I have.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to keep pushing with it. But the most important thing is to maintain my emotional, strength around my son.
Yeah.
So, no, it was a real trial. I had spent all those years working, and it was like, I'll work till I'm making enough money, and then I'll get, have a child, and it'll be perfect. And by the time I had a son, in February 2009, it was like, well, it's not going to happen. It's clearly not going to happen. Everything is heading down at an incredible rate.
Yeah.
I mean, what I'd seen by that point is not only that these economic collapses were, hurting the system, but that they would use any excuse. And once they'd taken the money away, they weren't going to give it back, not to an artist.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the whole game this century has been take money away from artists any way possible. So, yeah, when I had a child, it was intense. And, like many people, I can remember the freaking New Yorker torturing me on the phone while I'm in the hospital, I was still working for them at that point, but it was going downhill. Like, everything was going downhill. And I think I was only doing illustrations really for a couple years longer.
Yeah.
And I got, correspondingly unhappy with Fantagraphics because there was just, it was horrible. Every source of income was getting closed down. Fantagraphics did a great job promoting the Thrizzle book in 2009. And then after that, it was just like, kind of let people find it attitude. They'll find it if they want it, kind of thing. It's not vitamin C. You really have to promote this shit. I don't understand why no one gets this. And also that you should use the internet for promotion. That's still a revolutionary idea for these people. I mean, for all of them, for my company too, it's amazing. For the, Simon and Schuster division. Yeah. My book, it's like, I don't know.
But by 2009, you were a 20-year veteran in illustration and stuff. And so it's like, what are you going to do now? Like, just like change careers and
Yeah, I have no other fucking skills. It's really down to like, I go work at Trader Joe's or something. So, I was doing Thrizzle still, but I felt like by like by the Twain book, which I did in like 2011, 2012, I think I was seeing clearly that Fantagraphics just wasn't going to try anymore.
Hmm.
And I should have probably switched gears then. Um, the horrible part of the horrible irony is that I got a lot of praise for being funny, but that got me nothing. There was nowhere to go from that. Like, no one wants funny, bizarre comics, apparently, and unless you're corporate aligned, you're not going to get any support, for it. So there was nothing I could do with that, and there were the entertainment offers, but they're all maddening, I wish someone had offered me a writing job, but it was always, create a show for us, that's the offer. It's never come and write for us. It's create a show for us. And if you go to the trouble of really creating a show, then they're like, I had something like that for lunch and I didn't like it. It's always some bizarre, you don't even know what they're thinking. Yeah. I had one experience with Adult Swim, sorry to ramble, but
oh, please do.
Where they were like, we want you to co-write a show. It's going to be a twisted kind of take on Archie, Like, oh, okay, sounds promising. So they hooked me up long distance with this guy who had written for Seinfeld. He's actually the guy whose family did celebrate Festivus. And I was like, okay, this is fairly exciting, And then suddenly, like, we have another call and they're like, actually, Mike says it should be a show called Planet Negro, about black astronauts who come to Earth and are treated horribly in the 1950s, who don't understand it because there's no racism on their planet. And I'm like, okay, I'm out. Yeah. I'm not fucking writing a show called Planet Negro. If you want to do that, get some black writers, for God's sake. But even then, don't.
At that point in the process, have you already been paid?
No, I don't think I was paid a penny for that one.
So a lot of it's just time wasting, and they haven't paid you anything yet.
Yeah, and I'm not great at demanding stuff. I'm trying, I've been trying to get better over the years, but it's hard. It's really hard. So that was just one of many experiences where it's just like, oh,
Yeah.
It's all part of someone's business plan. It's all subject to change at a whim. You got this army of middle managers. I mean, one of the things is that the publishing industry has become a subsidiary of the entertainment industry, very plainly and clearly. And so you're getting the thinking of the entertainment industry combined with, some sort of expertise of people who knew what they were doing 30 years ago. And it's just a goddamn mess.
Yeah. I know. I was watching Good Morning America this morning with my coffee, and they were promoting. They're like, "Here are the books you need to check out this season," and they were all like memoirs and self-help books from people who like were on like reality shows. There's like that couple who like are famous and they like flip houses, and it's like the husband just wrote a new book or whatever. I'm like, these are the books you're promoting. Like, this is bullshit.
Yeah, it's depressing. We went to Northampton, Massachusetts during the summer. Well, it was last year before all this, but they had used bookstores like they used to have in New York and other places, and it was really nice. But then going into the used bookstores, it was like, oh shit, they got the detritus in the last 30 years when we've had just a torrent of garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just got in the mail. Stan and Jan Berenstain, Loverboy. Have you seen these comics before?
Oh wow!
You know who they are, right?
Oh yeah. Are these? This is a Dell paperback, or?
Yeah, it's a Dell paperback, and it's like before they did the Berenstain Bears, they did these like really saucy like cartoons. Like, this is the other one I got, Office Loverboy, which should really just be called like #MeToo, because all this is this guy in the office just like molesting the women, and it's like that humor, like like, look at this little scamp. He's in the elevator with all those women. Look at that look on his face.
Nice, yeah. Oh wow.
It really is like an artifact from another time,
Yeah, back when things were wholesomely filthy.
Exactly, yeah.
Have you ever seen a cartoon from France called Clementine?
No, I haven't.
Oh my God, it's a wholesomely drawn thing. It looks not unlike, say, the style of Family Circus, and is one of the filthiest filthiest cartoons you would ever see. There are collections around. I have one called Clementine Cherie, but it's a teenage girl who is having sex with men nonstop, and her parents are kind of oblivious.
Oh,
Or,
Jesus.
because it's France.
Yeah, and they read it. There's like, it's it's like kind of thing. What era is it from? Like the 50s or something?
Yeah, 50s.
Yeah.
It's unbelievably filthy.
Have you had any? Are your books translated into French?
Only Snake and Bacon in Belgium by Belgian Press.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm surprised
Yeah.
that your new book's not translated.
I don't even know anymore. I don't even know. I mean, I had a mainstream agent for this last book, which I thought, oh, great, this will get me into mainstream circles. But no, it turned out he couldn't do that or comics. It was just hopeless. So it got translated into Spanish by Blackie Books, but there were no offers otherwise. And then recently, the same Belgian house that did Snake and Bacon said they wanted to do it, and I was like, that's great, but I haven't received a penny or heard anything about how the book did there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really, what am I supposed to get out of this? And they were like, oh, actually, we do owe you some money. Part of being an artist now is you have to be good at promotion, good at being a merchant, and I'm not inherently good at those things. Mm-hmm. And part of the All the Answers book was also trying to explain why I have these qualities, or that's what it became, certainly. Like this, I think all cartoonists in some ways share these warring instincts of wanting attention and wanting to avoid attention. Two very strong,
that is so true. Organs. Yeah, that is so true, man. Like I want the good attention. I don't want to be attacked on Twitter.
Yeah.
But but I want the attention. So it's like, how much work do I really have to put out into the world to just get that good attention, and then not get any of the stuff that comes when you get a little bit too big?
Yeah.
There's a balance.
Yeah, it's true.
You haven't gotten into any trouble on Twitter before?
What is trouble?
Where people just like trying to destroy your career because you did a comic that they don't like?
Weirdly, no, and I've tried. I honestly think if you can get a lot of negative attention, that's probably better for your career than anything. I hate to say it, but it
depends, though. It depends.
I did one about how stupid I think Russiagate is, but it's like my audience, my following has dropped a certain amount. I know it's like vote blue no matter who people and Biden's supporters and stuff like that. I got attacked by Pete Buttigieg's campaign manager a few weeks ago, who mocked that I had a Patreon, but I just used that to boost my Patreon numbers.
Oh, good. That's awesome.
It totally worked out.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I like a little bit back and forth. I don't argue. Like, I do not argue. I'll say what I think once, and then I just, that's it. I said what I thought.
So talking about All the Answers again, my question when I read that was that you've been a humor guy for so long that then when you have to do something serious, and I'm sure you get this all the time. I have to ask it myself. When you're working on that book, were you just constantly fighting that urge to swing the certain way into humor and like make a joke out of what you're working on? Like, do you have to fight that urge to put like a little inside joke in a panel or something?
No, not really. No, it was really its own thing, and it was also such a harrowing journey. To be honest, it wasn't inspiring a lot of humor. It was hard. It was really hard, and the realizations that came with that book were real. When I wrote, there's that one bit where it says, he's trying to get away. Well, fuck that. I will understand me. I mean him. That was a real thing I wrote. Like I was writing, I will understand him, but I wrote, I will understand me. And I'm like, oh shit.
Oh, wow.
That was, it really showed me a lot about myself, for better or worse. So it was a really painful one,
Yeah.
I don't know. So no, I didn't feel any impulse to put humor in it.
Was that the first serious book you've ever done, or first serious comic?
It wasn't the first serious comic. I'd done some earlier ones when I was young. Like I did one on Albert Fish, that I found too disturbing. I'm not, not going to be the serial killer guy.
Yeah.
But no, it was intensely hard to build too, and like the final part didn't come like right until the book was due, and I finished that book 6 weeks before it came out,
Oh my
which
God.
is insane. So
Did you have to do like a cover before the book was even finished?
yeah, I did, yeah. So that was intense. I mean, the advance was good, but it wasn't good enough to like support
Hmm.
me and my family. So I was doing that book and doing comics for Vice and Adult Swim at the same time. So that was quite a year. And that year, actually, I did turn off all social media for like 8 months at least, and didn't read anything, basically.
How long did that book take you to do?
God, well, I started the interviews that I used for it back in 2012, but I didn't commit to doing it till 2014, 2015.
Hmm.
And then even then, it took like a couple of years to get it to pitching stage. I think yeah, that's right. It was sold in August 2016, and then came out. It was, I think, April 2018. Yeah, and I finished it in January 2018.
What does pitching stage look like? What was that? 20 pages maybe?
These days, you kind of it's best to have a script for the whole thing and possibly a rough of the whole thing, and then finished pages to show. Yeah.
You had all that? You had the entire book roughed out when you pitched
No,
it?
I had about 2/3.
Okay.
Yeah. What I realized too late with, the company I signed up with was they were doing it kind of as a, like, well, what the hell? We'll publish graphic novels. Maybe people will buy them. Maybe they won't, but there's no serious commitment. Whereas, Abrams, Pantheon, a few others.
Yeah. Abrams and Pantheon give the graphic novels the kind of quality that Fantagraphics or Drawn Quarterly would, like as an object. Yeah. So if you're going to do something, you should try and do it with Abrams. And I mean, you have a better reputation than I do, so I guarantee that it would take
I'm
you.
sure that's not true.
Well,
The next things I want to do are this Bobo project, and then I also, just have something to work on. But I'm doing a series of fairy tales that have Christian religious figures in them,
oh, cool.
which is something I kind of stumbled across. But I thought it's such a odd, weird, fun genre
Hmm.
of these old fairy tales where Jesus or Saint Peter are wandering around granting wishes, and or ones with Mary or Joseph. So I'm doing a set of those.
Cool.
So
And that's
yeah.
you don't have a publisher for it yet?
No, I'm just going to start doing it and then maybe try to sell it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, when you won 2 Eisner Awards, right? One was for
No, one.
one. I thought you
Yeah,
won.
and I'm kind of half convinced that it was just because the story was called Moon 69 that people were like, yeah, Moon 69. Yeah.
What was
Because
that?
no, I lost for all the answers to Box Brown. It was great, but
Okay.
that was a blow.
Didn't you do something for Valiant?
Yeah, I did do a couple of things for Valiant. You're right.
What did you do?
Uh God, it was a Valiant. Oh yeah, I did a Valiant. It was like, it was their superhero team, and I did a whole story and also a variant cover.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah.
I have
I'm
to.
sure Alejandro Arbona had been an editor at Marvel
Okay.
back
So,
when I did a few things for them.
yeah. What
The
was
last
that?
job Marvel offered me, it's like they were still offering such ridiculous low money that I
Mhm.
just got pissed off and said no.
Yeah. But Valiant though, Valiant had a lot of money, right?
Yeah, as I remember, I wasn't badly paid for that. It's always a shock when it happens these days, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So wasn't that nominated for an Eisner?
Oh, you're right. Yeah, right. A bunch of their stuff. It was nominated for an Eisner. It didn't win, but for some reason, someone had figured out the voting that year or something, so they got a bunch of Valiant stuff on the slate.
Okay. Yeah. I remember that year. I got.
That's right. You're right. So yeah, I guess I've been nominated 3 times.
Yeah.
Wow.
Did you get? Did you ever
Four
actually?
times. No, 4 times because Snake and Bacon was also nominated.
Did you? Do you remember who beat you every time that you lost?
No, no. I mean, I remember who beat me for all the answers. It was Box Brown and his
Hmm.
Andy Kaufman book. As far as the others, no, I don't remember.
I always remember because whenever I've been nominated for a few Eisners myself, but it's always like up against Mr. Miracle or like some, it's like I can tell that they've already chosen who the winner is going to be, and they just need somebody to fill out the ballot. So they're just like, put this Fantagraphics book here, try to
Yeah.
make it look like it's diverse or something. And I'm always like, God damn it! It's like, oh my God, I'm nominated for an Eisner Award. I can't believe my little Fantagraphics book got nominated. Who am I against? Oh, Justice League of America. I'm like, God, son of a bitch.
Have you ever been to the San Diego Comics Convention?
Yeah, I went a couple of years ago. Yeah. Did you go?
No, I've never been.
I would be surprised if it even came back. I think that stuff is gone with the wind. I think we're
Good.
yeah.
Good.
I think we're entering a new phase of whatever it is that we're in. I think that conventions are probably going to be like, I heard the book expos are all done. They canceled.
Good. Good.
So
I went to the New York Comic Con a few times, and it was really funny because I went one of the first years, and it was pretty sparse. I mean, compared to what it became.
Yeah.
And then a few years later, just an insane experience.
At the best I've ever done at a show, you're selling like these $5 comics or whatever. It's like you leave the show, you've got like $300 in your pocket, and then you get a cold for the next week because you shook all these people's hands.
Yeah, that's so true. You look at like 80 years ago, when you look at the old newspapers, and there was just this incredible array of bizarre surrealism on the comic page every day that millions of people ate up. Now you have these very rarefied graphic novels and books like How to Understand Comics, and it's like the society is so visually illiterate now.
Yeah,
it's intense.
Yeah, well, I want to do stuff like this, like I want to get back to the era of doing like a little Dell humor paperback books that are just like mass produced, they sell at Rite Aid. Like I want to do that stuff. That would be great for me.
Well, in some ways, comics are at their finest when they're disposable. That's one of the areas in which they excel, where the craziness can really come out. Recently, I got fascinated a little bit again with, what are they called? Fumetti Neri, the European comics, especially in Spain and Italy, the Catholic countries, where kind of censorship was lifted, and they have these amazing comics just full of sex and violence, or like people's penises getting chopped off in every other panel, and just insane like sadism and sexual content.
What era is that from?
It's like from the like 70s and 80s in Spain after a certain point, and Italy.
Where do you find that stuff?
I had to dig a lot online, basically. I mean, you could buy it, but none of us has that kind of disposable income. But I found some torrents and whatnot.
Yeah. Was there a time before you had a family of your own that you just had disposable income and you could just buy a bunch of old like comic books and magazines and that kind of stuff?
Yes, there was, and I could travel and stuff. It was amazing. I remember travel. It was so nice.
Did you collect VHS tapes?
I did actually for a while. I was not collecting the VHS tapes, but I definitely had a collection of taped material and such. And I collected old stuff. I've gone off it partly because I've known so many hoarders and I've seen the health risks, associated with that. But I still have some stuff. And there used to be used magazine stores in New York.
Yeah. And
there was one on 40th Street behind Port Authority, and they had some really wild old magazines, and they had at one point this guy's collection of magazines where it was some real weird stuff. I think it was a guy in Connecticut, and he got the men's magazines mostly, from the 50s and 60s, the really lurid ones.
Yeah.
And he collected those, and but he would take them apart and then make his own magazine out of them and stamp his name on the cover. It was really odd.
Would he self-publish his little creation? Or?
No, they were just for his collection, I guess. But he'd like take apart the magazine, then put like a version of the magazine, I think comprised of several magazines, together in a cover and staple it, and it was his new version of the magazine.
Is it
really eccentric? But because they've been what?
Was it according to his own fetishes that he had, maybe?
Possibly. You know, sometimes I notice things scribbled on them, like the name of a photographer. There may have been some professional reason for this. I don't know. It's deeply eccentric. We did a book of these. The British art publisher, because I put a bunch on Twitter, and then this British art publisher approached me, and we did a book of them.
Oh,
I think it's called like Pirate Sex Nightmare or something. But just of the pages from these magazines, which are just scrambled without any sense to them, you know. So I still have a couple boxes left. I took them all apart, of course, and put the good pages in binders, and you know, I've got like a couple boxes of this stuff.
oh.
But the detritus of the past century.
When you're working on all the answers, aren't you just kind of reliving all this stuff and kind of existing within your own past in a way that you hadn't before?
Yeah, completely. And really looking at it, like just never had looked at it that hard, you know, and to really look at it, you know, there were the cool aspects. It's like, oh my God, my dad hung around with Orson Welles and stuff and sneered at him and, you know, whatnot. But then, yeah, the intensely sad things where you see the limitations that were placed on him and that have in turn been placed on you, you know, through him. There was, and there's been stuff since then. I haven't, he died in April.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I didn't know.
You know, there's the big odd thing, like the obituary for the New York Times. You know, it's an odd feeling because he really did try to escape this stuff, but the obituary for the New York Times totally took its tone and its whole narrative from my book.
Oh,
Like it was, you know, to see that was a kind of odd feeling. And there have been, you know, other things have popped up since then. And there was a letter which his best friend from back in the day sent us. And it was a letter from my dad 2 days after he was on that game show. Now, it took a lot of deduction from me to figure that game show was the thing that was the final breaking point for him, because he was so resistant to mentioning it. He was still visibly terrified, you know, if you brought it up. But it was an assumption that I made. And then this letter was completely backed up everything I said, because it was from him 2 days after that game show. He was racked with guilt. He felt, you know, really horrible. He still hadn't figured it out yet. It's kind of heartbreaking. He's like, the other contestant gave me the answer, but at another point he says, I want to give him money. It wasn't fair. And it's like, don't you understand? He was in on it too. You know, and then he literally is saying in the letter, I'm going to become a different person now. I'm going to retreat behind a mask of, you know, scholarliness. I'm not going to be, you know, vulnerable like this anymore. It's just heartbreaking. It's one of those things where you wish you could go back in time and, you know, have a talk.
Was that your agent that hooked you up with McSweeney's, or was that through just meeting somebody in New York?
No, nothing good has ever come through an agent. McSweeney's was also actually through Tony Millionaire. Okay. You know, yeah. But
I really enjoyed talking to you, man. It's been a long time. So.
Oh yeah, thanks. This was a lot of fun. Anytime.
Everybody's talking about Please Don't Step on My Jinko Jeans from Fantagraphics Books. Slice of life humor in beautiful color. Get your copy now before it's too late. Hit the link in the description of this video